Okay, well, welcome to this webinar to help your law firm find the right solution, CRM solution, to match the scenarios that you want to fix. We're going to go through a number of scenarios, and if the one that you're experiencing doesn't get covered, just contact me directly and I'll go over it. Okay. My name's Simon Mandida. I'm from Prompter, a fully managed CRM service and software for law firms. I've spent 30 years in professional services, CRM, most of it in law, have 2 awards, and have written a CRM and GDPR book. Okay, so let's go through some of the scenarios. So let's presume you're starting from scratch. You've got lists all over the place. Okay, all you really want to do is pull them all together into one list so you've got no duplicates and things like that, and easily send your firm's newsletters, your alerts, insights, whatever you like to call them. Well, having a CRM system is like buying a sledgehammer to crack a nut with this one. Your best bet is to have an email tool. One of the best known ones is MailChimp, and all it allows you to do is add all your contacts, send them information very, very easily. You can subset areas of the database, so you can have property contacts, you can have employment contacts, you can have everybody. You can send your firm's Christmas cards from it, that sort of thing. Okay, so as a recap, a CRM system probably isn't what you want for these things. It'll take you a huge amount of time to administrate it, and you won't be able to send emails as easily as just an email tool. Okay, it's a lot cheaper as well. So maybe your firm lives and breathes events. Now, a CRM system has a very simple event tool. They usually mark who's been sent stuff, who's responded, and things like that. If you are wanting to really do big flash events and you have a variety of workshops, some paid, some book on, those sorts of things, a CRM system probably isn't the best bet for you. Okay. If that's what you want to do, only events. If you're doing small events like golf days, seminars and webinars, a CRM system will do the job as long as you can mark the systems. But an event tool bolted to an email tool would be a far better bet for you. So, for example, if you had MailChimp and Eventbrite, for example, allowing you fully to advertise your events everywhere and then capture responses of who's coming. Okay. Eventbrite will, of course, take a small chunk of money if you're charging for your events, but most law firms offer them free. Okay. So maybe your firm wants to go, look, we want to do better bids, pitches, we want to streamline the process, we want to bring in CVs, we want to bring in key experience, we want to track companies or people through a funnel, those sorts of things. Yes, CRM systems will do that, but they won't do it as well as systems like EasyPQQ or Pipedrive, those sort of things that are built with pipeline management as their main tool. Okay. When you start asking questions like, we want to know who knows who, or we want to understand the relationships with contacts, or what have we been doing with them over X years, or by different teams or different partners, that's when CRM systems really come into their own for law firms. You can have mass market systems or you can have legal specific systems. The mass market systems, they're really designed for people that sell widgets and have a really good sales process and have a mandated use of the tool. For example, if you're in recruitment, be ideal and everybody's marked once a week, once a month on what's in the system. If it's not in, it hasn't happened. Now that isn't law firms or anyone like that in professional services. It's a much more, every law firm I've been in or have been in temporarily or as an employee, they've all been, well, we'd like you to use it, please. It's not a have to use system like the time recording or the billing system, otherwise the bills don't get paid. Yeah. It's a nice to have system. So you have to bear that in mind. Now, there are mass market tools. There are legal specific tools. I would always suggest you go for one that has been fine-tuned to the legal market. You get some of the big systems, the design for sales teams. So if you've got a 100-person widget business, and you've got a 10-person sales team, you're only buying 10 licenses. So it's very, very easy. So if you chose something like Salesforce, which is £95 a user, you're all right because you're only buying 10 licenses. If you've got a law firm with 100 people, you're buying about 90 licenses. It's a very, very different cost structure. So you just have to bear that in mind. So I wouldn't advise one of the mass market systems. Now, you can find some cheap systems that are 10 users only, so Agile CRM, for example. But you've got to manage it yourself. You've got to say, well, actually, I'm a law firm. I'm not selling widgets. What do I want to do? So I would suggest you look at the legal specific CRM systems. There are loads around. Got in-tap interactions. Bits of it does Salesforce. Some of them tweak Dynamics. You've got Prompter, of course. Things like that. There are a few on there. Get in touch and I'll probably give you a list. Don't worry about that at all. So that's where CRM really helps a law firm. Okay, if you're finding the multiple relationships of who knows who and how well they know them. Going one step further, let's say you're looking at, okay, we're looking at a CRM system that's specialized towards legal. One of the big problems is the data quality. You've got users going, yeah, but I'd use it, but the data's rubbish in it. Well, they're not going to use it then, are they? So let's just presume that your scenario is, right, we fine-tune that we actually do want a CRM system, but who's going to update the data? So you have a number of different routes. If you buy a normal CRM system, one of the old-fashioned traditional ones where you say, right, I'll buy the IT kit, you have to work out how to manage the data in it because your users aren't going to use it otherwise. So you can either say to one of your marketing team, right, that's your job. That's going to be the worst job of worst part of their job. And I don't know how many marketing execs you're going to get through if you do that, because there aren't many people that go, oh, I want to do marketing and business development. Oh, I'm updating a database. You could ask your lawyers and PAs to do it. Well, the lawyers aren't going to do it. And I'll show you some quotes after this slide as well of why they're not going to. And the PAs or secretaries, or assistants for the lawyers, they're probably not going to want to do it as well. And if someone says, right, that's 10% of your job, please update the database, you've probably got, at the end of the year, the appraisals or PDRs, or whatever you like to call them, when they go, right, well, how did the database updating go? And they're going to say, well, you asked me to do other stuff to do for clients, so I didn't get to do it because the other stuff's far more important. Data's not important until you come to use it. So you've got the lawyers and the PAs and your marketing team. They're not going to want to do it. You could recruit someone to say, your job is to update the data. They're quite rare, those people. And you might find that you have quite a large turnover. You could say, right, we've bought this IT kit and we're going to hire in some consultants or some data administrators or whatever you like to call them. If you look at interaction, they call them data stewards, those sorts of things. That's one way of doing it. Okay. Another way of doing it, a bit like the prompter service, fully managed service where all the data is updated for you. So there are many different ways of updating the data, but you have to do it. It won't work without you updating information. So you have to work out, where do we want this additional cost? So this is real life feedback from user surveys that I've done over the years, and these are some of my favorites. So, excuse me, my clients aren't in it, so I'm not going to use it. Updating the database isn't a 400 per hour job. Right. And one of my favorite quotes ever, verbatim, is, I found the record, saw it was wrong, thought I should update it, but didn't. Now, these are real life users. So if you haven't got a CRM system, this is what you're going to expect. If you have got one, you know full well that this is a near mirror image of what you're looking at already. So as well as having someone to update it, there's new pieces of software coming in. And they do all sorts of different ways of signature scraping. So you can Google signature scraping software, and that will show you what's going on with your contacts and your users and how they're monitoring contacts. So the simplest way of thinking about this is your CRM system links up with your Outlook. And when a user or your lawyer or your PA or anyone in your marketing team emails the external contact, a trigger is set in the system and it says, right, let's add that person. Okay? And let's add that lawyer as knowing that person. Because you don't want people to actually have to, you don't want your users to have to do work on this database. When the email comes back, it's looking at the email signature of the contact. So at the bare basics, it's looking at the email header. So if I'm sending you an email and your system would record that Simon McNider at Brompton would come in to your system. A signature scraping tool goes one further, so you can have different levels. And that would say, well, it's looking at my email, my company number, my address, any other information about me that I've put in my email signature, and it takes that information and adds it to the system. Now, these are game changers. Yeah. Do not buy a CRM system if you're in a law firm or accountants or any professional service firms without this sort of functionality. Users do not update data. They don't add contacts unless you force them, and then they don't want to do it. Quite fairly, the second point, updating it isn't a £400 job. If you've got a lawyer that's being charged out on a day rate, asking them to update the job title or add their contact is just madness. These extra tools, for a bit of extra cost, add it all into the system and update it when it goes through. Okay, so if someone's job title changed from financial controller to finance director, most of these systems go, hang on, there's a data change there, let's flag it up. Now, no automatic system is brilliant. Okay, they're all going to need someone somewhere to sense check the data. So, for example, we've got a small business here at Prompter. There's 3 of us, and we have the Prompter signature scraper on our tool. We have deleted from the system 95% of the incoming email. So it's things like no reply app, newsletters, accounts app, admin app, those sorts of things. You don't want them in your database. Most of the systems automatically just bring it in. You still have to have a person to go, yep, want that one, don't want that one, want that one, don't want those 10, that sort of thing. Okay, so just remember that all these companies that say, signature scraping is the actual, it's the answer to everything. It's a lot of the answer. For example, if you have a contact that works at HSBC Bank and they move to Barclays Bank, what these signature scraping tools will do is no activity will be recorded against the old contact at HSBC. And a new contact will be created at Barclays and all of the activity will happen to them. What you've got to do is have a person, because there aren't any systems yet that do this, to go, that's generally the same person, and link them up. Okay, so you're never going to get away from having a person or a team manage your system for you. Okay. Imagine a great big wonderful building, glass, super, windows and walls, all that sort of stuff. It only stays up in the air because of the foundations, and nobody gives the foundations an inkling of thought until something goes wrong. And the data is the foundations of your CRM system. Okay. So let's go on. So let's say you want a CRM system, but our lawyers won't use it. So if you haven't got one, they're unlikely to use it after it stops being new and shiny. If you've got one, you know you've got CRM adoption and engagement and usage issues. So there are a number of ways of getting around this. You need to find a CRM database that, yes, it has a database, but that's not the main thing. Your objective is to get the benefit from a system, not so the lawyers get the benefit from it, not the lawyers have to use it. So what you're after, to make it easy for your users, because you know full well your lawyers live in Outlook, is have a system that does things in Outlook. Whether it's a sidebar or toolbar or whatever, or whether it generates alerts and reports and punts them into the inbox, it needs to work with Outlook because that's how your users work. These systems, CRM systems, have been out and around for about 25, 30 years. Okay? Nobody yet has converted all the lawyers to using a database. Okay? So they're obviously not going to, because over 30 years, they still haven't. Make the system work to them. So my recommendation is, yes, you're going to need a database because everything has to store information somewhere. Maybe the marketing maybe the marketing team access it, but the lawyers aren't going to want to. They've trained for years and years and years doing law. They haven't done IT and databases. And quite frankly, a lot of personal assistants, secretaries haven't either. So you want to find a system that does alerts. So in the simplest way, how about finding one that does a weekly alert to all of your users to say, these are the things that have happened recently with the contacts that you're listed as knowing. And of course, don't ask the lawyers to actually say, I click a button to say, I know this person. It should all happen automatically. Whether someone's had a meeting with them, they've dropped them an email, they've added the details, obviously they know them. So just make the system do it. You've got other systems as well that drop an email the day before a meeting to the lawyer that's meeting a person about that person. So it says who knows them and how well, and any activity that they've done, whether it's by their colleagues, like I've gone and had a coffee with them, I picked up the phone call to them, or if the person has clicked on mail shop links or newsletter links, or booked onto seminars and webinars on your golf day, that sort of thing. It just keeps everybody up to date without any effort. All they have to do is read the email for about 10 seconds to go, oh, right, that's one of my key contacts there on my weekly update. Right, what do I do with it? So some really good news stories about that. One of my clients, a partner at one of my clients, was going to visit the chairman of one of his clients to look at his weekly alert and go, hang on a minute, one of my colleagues has had a charity bike ride with the same person. So they had a chat, worked out what was going on, and what a lovely conversation starter that partner had to that contact when he was able to say, oh, how did your charity bike ride go with my XYZ colleague? What a wonderful way of giving outstanding client service. Rather than going, meeting them, and the client going, oh, I met one of your colleagues last week on a bike ride. And you go, did you? Yeah, it's just making sure that your firm, you look like you've got your left hand knows what the right hand's doing. Okay. A couple of ways of getting people to use a database, because you can't get away from it really. So systems record Outlook emails and Outlook meetings, that's all fine. But if people are going for coffees with people, or they meet other people at networking events or on a trip or anything like that, how do you get that sort of information in? Well, the easiest way of doing it is to ask the lawyer, to ask their PA to add it in, done. But then you've got the incentive of actually getting those two things happening. So I've had really good experience having BD leaderboards, i.e. the information that has been added into the system. And all it is a simple rolling 6 months. You get 1 point for adding that you've had a coffee with somebody, for example, or 1 point for saying I've met them, had a chat, I discussed their holidays, those sorts of things. That really boosts usage. From my experience, everyone in the top quarter of those leaderboards really likes them. Everyone at below and at the bottom go, no, this is a silly idea. It's just a different way of doing it. You've got to boost usage and you've got to carry on doing it. Now, if you've got a system that has those all built in, brilliant. If you haven't, you've got to set it up yourselves. And that's where the hard work comes in. So have a look for a system that has it all built in. A couple of other ways of really boosting usage. You can use it at the end of your year or half yearly reviews or appraisals, or performance development, or PDRs, whatever you like to call them. So you can always say, right, well, to the lawyers, this is the BD activity that you've done this year. Yep, that will get some stuff into the system. The best route is a really big stick rather than a carrot. 20 years ago, I was at Pinsent Masons actually, and we just installed a brand new CRM tool, maybe 25 years ago now, actually, to be fair. And we were trundling along at a certain level of these people are logging BD notes, had a coffee with someone, and then one day it just shot up and it carried on going. And we thought, oh, we're doing a really good job here. No, one of the teams has said, look, if you don't add your BD notes into the system, you're not getting your corresponding expenses. So your taxi to the client or the pack of sandwiches that you client, you're not getting it back unless you put a note in. And I can't argue with that. That was by far and away the best way of doing it. Okay. If you've got a system that allows you to just do an automatic click, download, print this for expenses, all good. A lot of them don't. There's a reason for that. It's just a bit hard. And you've got to manage it yourself. So find a system that's got it all built in. Okay, so you want a CRM system. I got all good. Your end result isn't buying the tool, showing people it, giving them it one day trading, and off you go. Yeah, it's a continual process. So what I do is we do at my clients regular training sessions. So just refresher sessions. There's no reason why someone needs to remember how to do all the things in the system. Now, you'll get some consultants or the database systems themselves when they offer the consultants to say, right, well, we're going to sit people down and they're going to have 3 hours training and we're going to show them absolutely everything. You haven't got a chance of getting your lawyers or your partners in on those. They're going to forget most of it. What's the one thing you want them to do? Or maybe 2. One thing is review the things that the system is showing them. So show them the weekly alert, show them the pre-meeting briefing packs or whatever you want to call it, and say, this is what you do with this. Here's some hints and tips on getting in touch with the contact after it. The other one is just showing them what the one thing you want them to log into the system so that the system works. And that's, I'm having a coffee. It should be doing everything else for them. So you've got continual management. You're going to have users asking the question, how do I? Someone has to manage that. So if you're going to upskill the marketing team or your IT team, that's all good. Or find a fully managed system where it's all just all managed for you and you just have to pay the money and you hardly lift a finger. You may also want to have a system or a supplier that offers hints and tips on what to do with the CRM system. Okay, and that's where it comes down to not offering tips on how to add stuff, but how to make use of things like the weekly alert. So you receive a weekly alert as a lawyer, because I haven't done any training on BD or marketing or sales or anything like that at all. Well, what do I do with it? Well, here's a tip. If you see one of your contacts has booked onto a webinar, why not drop them a note or a phone call and say, I'll join it as well, and I'll phone you afterwards and I'll answer any questions you might have. What an easy excuse. It's very obvious and very easy to do. So you might need someone somewhere to write these tips for your users. Your marketing and BD teams, or you can have the good suppliers and they offer that sort of thing. Right. You've got a system and it helps your BD, but your lawyers can't use it. I touched on that on the last slide. Show them how to do things that might not necessarily be naturally BD for them. And nobody's ever going to do cold calling and nobody expects that. But if you get an alert from the system that shows them what's happening to their contacts and shows them that they're interested in a topic, and then tell them, drop them a note and just say, I see you're coming onto XYZ webinar, or you've booked onto our seminar. How fantastic. I'll see you there. I'll have a coffee if I can't make it before, or I'll come to a drop-in session, or I'll meet you afterwards. It just shows your clients or your prospects or your work introducers, whatever you've got in there, that you care and you've got their best interests at heart. And lastly, you might have the issue of, look, we occasionally, we're not saying we have complaints or bribes or money laundering issues at all in the slightest. We have any. Could we monitor them? Now, not many CRM systems do this, and most of them will be a separate bolt-on. But if you said, right, if an email came into our firm to a lawyer, and it had a complaint type keyword in it or phrase, for example, I'm unhappy, the unsatisfactory work, those sorts of things. I've got a complaint. I'm complaining, anything like that. So what would your risk or PI team do about that? If it came to a lawyer and they were out or in a meeting, how long would that email stay in their inbox? If they have loads of emails, how quickly does that go to the bottom? They could be on holiday and the email might not go anywhere. Or they might be hiding the issue that, yes, I'm hooked up there. I'm just going to fix it myself. Presumably your risk team need to find out about that. And so there are some systems out there that send a central email, could be the marketing manager, could be the risk team, an email to say, you've had an email that's matched the 10, 20, 30 keywords that you've chosen. Just to go and have a chat and look at that email and see if there's anything you need to do ASAP. Imagine if you're a client and you've sent an email to the central email address, because that's what you found on the website, for example, marketing at, events at, all those sorts of things, or to your lawyer, and someone senior calls up immediately to say, I'm really sorry you're having that experience. Let's see what we can do to solve it. How do you feel? I bet you feel really pleased and quite loyal. Okay. And then there's a last slide, a bit about me. I'm not going to focus on that at all, and what our service is. I hope that was a good and useful. I'm looking at my clock, 26 minutes of your time. I'll send you a link to the recording of this webinar, some slides and some extra information. But I hope you found that useful. Get in touch if you've got any questions, or you've got a scenario that we didn't cover here, and I'll go over it with you. Other than that, thank you very much.